everybody. Welcome again to another episode of No BS Just Marriage. We're so excited to have you in here with us tonight. Got a lot to talk about. Again, my name is Boris. This is my beautiful wife, Stephanie.
Hey guys, today's conversation is really an important one. We're talking about why seeking therapy is not just okay, it's wise, healthy, and honestly very biblical.
Exactly. We got a lot to talk about again, so let's just jump right into it, babe. I'm excited for this one, so we decided to start this one with a little personal story, kind of what got us initially into therapy. It's a kind of crazy, funny, and stupid story. But just to kind of give some background on that, there was a situation. We first moved into our house. So we moved into our house the same week we got married. Fresh kind of lifestyle overall right away. I took it upon myself to surprise my wife with a TV, right? And this is really my TV because it was for the man cave. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend this out of my pocket. She doesn't have to worry about this, out of the list of expenses we got to do for the house. And the TV was like $600 or something like that. And she blew up on me. I remember I thought she was going to just be happy. And she was like, dude, like, what are you thinking? What kind of surprise is this? I guess you can, go into more context about your mindset on my surprise was not the greatest surprise.
Well, first and foremost, I think, a lot of couples, they handle their own finances their own way. But for me, I knew going into this marriage that we have to talk about our finances together, especially because it was a big purchase. And so we're not going to go into too deep because you did gaslight me about this TV. Okay. I'm not going to get into like how you gaslight. Well, actually I am. You literally made me feel like this TV was for the household. This TV was for your man cave. So this was not really a surprise for me. Essentially, this was something that you wanted for yourself, which is fine. But I think after therapy, we came to a resolution and we were like, okay, what's the best way for us to communicate when it comes to spending money? And so our therapist, shout out Erica, she said for us to, if we spend more than $500, we should be able to discuss together if this expense is worth it. Is it something having a conversation about it. So yes, I blew up, but I had every right to because I felt like you were trying to, I don't know, it just didn't seem right. Like it didn't seem like we were a union and we were making decisions together. Yeah.
So that's perfect summary of what happened. I think in my immature, freshly married mind, I was thinking, it sounds horrible this way, but my money is my money, your money is your money. And we didn't really discuss the new way of, handling our funds yet. So
make sure you guys talk about y'all finances before you guys get married, please.
So that's why I was like, oh, I'm going to spend $500, $600, whatever out of my pocket. And she's going to be so happy that she doesn't have to spend that. But again, our money is our money. There's no, just backstory.
When we said I do, your money is my money,
right?
And my money is your money.
So we probably went a little too deep, but that's what got us into therapy. We just couldn't communicate that and have that understanding of what the best approach is moving forward. So started with a backstory.
Yeah, and I also want to add that even though it was a one-day situation, it literally just snowballed into where I did not have any trust with you with our finances moving forward. So something that could have been resolved on a weekend, like if we fought on a Monday, we would be over by Friday or something. This literally took us a solid 6 months to get through together, to figure out what we're supposed to do as a whole, as a unit, for our family. So yeah.
Big learning moment for us, and we're much better today.
We are.
Hallelujah. Okay. So next segment here. So this is where it gets a little interesting, babe. I want to ask you, why do you think most people avoid therapy?
Okay, great question. I think people avoid therapy. One of the main reasons I would say is they lack accountability. Going to therapy kind of forces you to sit face to face with your flaws. A lot of people would rather ignore their issues than actually deal with them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in a way, you're kind of saying it's like a pride thing. It's pride and ego.
Yes. Okay. You have a favorite saying, usually say accountability takes humility.
Yes. Accountability requires humility. One, it rhymes. So, easy to remember. But I like this quote because accountability requiring humility, I think it takes first and foremost, man or woman to be in tune with themselves and know when they're wrong or know when, they have a bad habit or a trait that can be improved, having that understanding within them, because until you can have that humility, then you will have the accountability to want to improve it. Like
Yeah.
you actually be open to communicating and being completely open-minded with your spouse. Of course, you're the most, your number one person in your life. Like, I think that having that accountability requires humility, and without the humility, there's no way you can kind of speak on any of the issues or anything that you want to improve in your life, whether it's marital, career issues, whatever the case may be. So went on a rant there, but all good. Number two, what is the
Okay.
second reason
I
why?
would say people think that they can fix their problems on their own.
Talk about that.
I think a lot of people operate in the flesh and not of their spirit.
Mm.
And so, what I mean by that is that they're essentially saying that they rely on themselves and not God.
Mm.
Yeah, and I know this Bible verse by heart.
Okay.
And I'm going to say what I mean by that. So, the Bible teaches us in John 15, verse 5, apart from me, you can do nothing. I'm wrong.
Simple and plain.
When Jesus says, apart from me, you can do nothing, he's not saying we can't move or make plans. He's saying without him, all things we try to build on our own won't last. It might not look good for a minute, but it won't have the weight, the fruit, or the blessing that only comes from being connected to him. So pretty much real success, real healing, real growth, it flows through him and not apart from him.
That's deep.
Thank you.
That was good. So no, I love that. I think that verse is very simple, few words, but it's saying so much, and a lot that people need to hear and to kind of understand. So ultimately, I think it's saying, the more you trust your own strength, the longer you delay your own healing. So it's like,
bars. Yes.
do you want to heal or not? It's as simple as that. I don't know.
I want to talk about how God never really intended us to go through hard seasons alone, because he's placed and anointed specific people for us to go through this process together. For example, we need counselors, we need therapists, we need pastors in our lives to help strengthen and refine us. Avoiding help is not strength, it's pretty much isolation. Isolation leaves room for the enemy to work. Yeah, it's biblical. I have a verse.
Okay. In these verses today.
I know, I gotta let the people know. Okay, so in Proverbs 15, verse 22, it says, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. You get it, honey?
Say it again for the people in the back.
Proverbs 15, verse 22 says, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. And I might be reaching with this example, but I have to say this because I know it'll go over a lot of people's head, but you love basketball.
There you go.
And I'm not really basketball savvy, but the best example I can give is LeBron James, your favorite basketball player, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So he's been winning all these championships, but not by himself, correct?
Of course. Yeah.
He has a team helping him. But without the team, he wouldn't be able to do it on his own strength. To be successful as an NBA player, he has to rely on his team together. And so that's where the therapist comes from. That's where the counselor comes from. That's where your pastor comes from. You cannot do it alone.
What you did there? Who's one of his teammates that helps him win a championship?
Okay, 1 second. He's on the Lakers, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Luka.
I was gonna say, if you don't know, okay, we're getting off topic. So let's get into the third bullet point here on why you think people avoid therapy. I'm gonna say marriage. Okay. All right. So on to the next bullet point of why you think people avoid therapy. You want to hit this next one?
Yeah, I think people avoid therapy is because they think that people are going to be in their business, and they don't want people in their business. And so what I've realized is, at the end of the day, a therapist has unbiased opinions. They're nobody that you know. And so, refusing help because you don't want people in your business protects your pride, but forfeits your healing.
Bars.
And so I would pretty much I think you were talking about, like, you think people are out here having a group chat.
Yeah. So my voice is correct. Yes, the group chat. So I was saying, it seems like the way people respond to right after your therapy session, your therapist, your counselor, whatever, is like going out and just texting your entire family, talking about this is what your kids are going through, and you don't even know it. And like, I don't know. That's just it. It just kind of blows me when people have that mindset of, no, let's just keep it inside the house. We don't need anybody in our business. Like, yes, that's kind of true, but a therapist is not just an outsider, just with an ear open of hearing all your business. They actually have a job, they're paid, they learned and studied, what it takes to understand people's childhood, the way their love language is and how they interact with each other and things like that. So I just think it's a horrible way to kind of think about it. But let's get into the last one. You want to hit it? Should I hit this one? Okay, so the last one is, which is a funny one, kind of sounds reasonable, but it's not at all. I've heard people say my parents have been married 40, 50 plus years and they never needed therapy. So why should I? Like I said, it sounds reasonable, but at the end of the day, just because our parents' generation didn't seek therapy, it doesn't mean that they didn't need it. It just could simply mean that they endured all this pain in silence instead of trying to heal. I feel like, especially back then, I don't know. I think our parents in their generation are way more prideful and way more private. So like, even if they're going through something, they won't even speak about it. They just go through it. Yeah. They just truck along and say, this is marriage. We just got to deal with it. And I think that's so unhealthy. There's so many ways around it. There's so many reasons why that's just so detrimental to not just you, but your union, your family.
Yeah. Because, our parents' battles are not the same battles that our current generation is also facing too. So whatever your parents went through back in the day, do not compare it to what we're going through today. Your parents did not have social media. Your parents did not have what else? They didn't have AI. They didn't have AI. Wow. Yes, they didn't have AI. They pretty much were relying on each other, I would say, back in the day. Now, I would say there's more freedom.
There's more tools. There's more resources. There's more, open-minded people that are out there to just want to help. I don't know. Yeah.
So just because it worked for your parents does not mean it's going to work for you. Yeah. And then also your parents your parents were married. Okay. What I'm trying to say is our personality is completely different from your parents' personality and my parents' personalities. Exactly. So there's no way I can compare our marriage to my parents because.
Exactly. Yeah.
You see what I'm going?
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Okay. So steer along here. So we talked about, what first got us into therapy, which is kind of a funny, stupid, I like to say story, but glad it happened.
Stop calling it stupid.
It was a funny, stupid story at the moment. Yes, it was. But like I said, I'm grateful for that stupid story because we're better today. All right, perfect. So we talked about kind of our intro to why we started therapy and our story, when we first got married and moved into a house and what made us jump into our first therapy session. We also hit some key reasons as to why we think people avoid marriage. So now for this last segment, we're going to talk about what therapy has done for us and kind of why we still look forward to it, why I can't see a day where we just decide to quit therapy. But
I want to give a shout out to my therapist.
Go ahead.
Our therapist, Erica. She is literally God sent.
She is.
She is the GOAT. And I don't think we would have been here today without her.
Nope. I can tell you that.
And I'll also say that she's been with us through the trenches from literally, we got married in August of 2020. She was hired October 2020, and she's been riding with us since then. For me, before we get into the segment, I'm sorry, I just want to get this out there, but I hope that if you are considering therapy, don't take it lightly. I get it's a very overwhelming process, but do your due diligence when it comes to finding a therapist that works for the both of you. Because what I love about Erica is she holds us both accountable. She makes me feel like if I go into therapy and I'm thinking I'm right, she'll clock me real quick and be like, hey, she'll clock me real quick. And she's like, Steph, no, you're wrong. And I'll see her perspective and vice versa.
No, 100%. 100%. I never feel like when we go into a session, it's never like she's going to pick a side or she's going to like just grill one of us the whole time unless it's like completely justified. But I don't know. She's perfect. We won't get into it. We can have a whole episode on her.
We will, but we'll definitely have her on one of our episodes for sure.
Yeah, facts.
So keep a look on that.
Yes. Okay. So let's get into it. So the first thing, I'll kind of start off here. I think what therapy has done for us, and I think the biggest thing, it's taught us how to communicate better. I think it's taught us how to use each other's communication styles and our conflict resolution preferences. So the first thing that comes to mind when I think about this point here is when we get in a fight, conflict, argument, disagreement, whatever you want to call it, I have this notion where I'm like, I can resolve this right away. I just need to hear from you. I need to know why you're bothered. what pissed you off specifically. I will never do it again. I could fix it right now and we'll just be happy. And like, I'm just in her face, like, tell me what's wrong. Because I don't like confrontation. So like, if there's a bad vibe in the house, I'm like, I'm going to fix it right now so we can go to sleep happy and we can, go pick cherries tomorrow. And she doesn't necessarily like that. I think that for me, especially before therapy, it was just self-explanatory. It was obvious my conflict resolution style, but I learned very quickly that that's not the way everyone works. Why are you so opposed to my conflict resolution style, and what way do you prefer? I know your answer, but I want you to break it down.
I prefer space. So if we get into a heated argument, I don't want to speak to you in that moment because I haven't gathered my thoughts and I don't want to have a reaction instead of actively thinking about what actually went down. And so I guess you could say if I'm talking to you in a heated moment, I'll be talking with my emotions versus my heart. So I know you'll need to talk to me in that moment, but I'll need a couple of hours.
Yeah, maybe even a night.
Very early on in our marriage, I would say I took a couple of days and you shut that down real quick.
Yeah, I didn't like that. That was too much.
Yeah, I was immature. So I would say that now our goal is 24 hours, at least a full 24 hours just to clear our mind. Mm-hmm. And then we don't like to go to sleep upset either.
Yeah.
Even if we're not fully in a good space before we go to sleep, I'll give you a little like nudge. I'll like rub your leg or something, let you know, like, I still love you just a little bit, but I don't.
Do you do that?
Yes, I do. Okay. Or, I'll put my cold feet on your.
Oh, that's so lovely. But no, I hear exactly. It took me a little bit to understand, like, it was just honestly selfish of me to expect you to just be able to put everything aside and just be like, okay, we have different styles. That's point blank period. And, we just got to kind of meet in the middle somewhere. And I think that's what we do now. I definitely give you some space. I think you definitely, instead of taking 4 days to think about it, you might take a day, or, if I piss you off in the morning, you might settle it at night. So that's huge. I think that's the number one thing therapy has done for us. So I think another like subject to that communication and how it's improved our styles or whatever, it's helped us improve the way we communicate with each other. I think one of it is texting versus speaking in person. I think that there's some times where I've learned, like, if we're not in the best space ever and I'm trying to say or relay like my feelings or why I'm hurt or why I'm annoyed to you in person, sometimes to you it seems like I'm saying it in a tone that's just like either condescending or disrespectful or mansplaining, whatever case may be. And I think to me, I'm just like, I'm saying it in the most sincere and softest tone possible. I don't know how this could come off as that. So sometimes I realize a text might work better. So if you know us, like I might be in the cave, the man cave, she'll be, upstairs, and like, I'll just send her a text instead, and like a well thought out, like, okay, ain't no way she gonna read this as like she's pissed off or I'm pissed off and trying to aggravate you. And I think there's just different tones to different ways of communication. Am I making sense?
I mean, you are, but I'm going to bring in Erica again because that's just what she does. She just lives in my head rent free. But when it comes to you texting me or vice versa, yes, we can interpret it in our own way. But she did mention to us that before we send a message, make sure there's a disclaimer that says, this is not how I'm trying to convey this message. So in advance, I'll be like, okay, you see, like in advance, I'll be like, babe, okay, don't read it in my tone. Just read it normally. Does that make sense?
It does. And it sounds like, hearing it out loud, it kind of sounds extra AF, but it's so necessary.
No, it's so necessary for us.
I feel like it really like just puts our mind at peace before we send a text, before we read a text with like that little disclaimer, like you said. So,
yeah, because if you add a cuss word in there by accident, I'm already knowing that this is not a lovely text from you.
That's facts. Next point, what therapy has done for us, it has absolutely improved our patience and our grace towards one another. That patience is a big thing. It's initially, I think, even still, it's something hard to like master patience. Like, it's just something that's just so like, why do I have to be patient? This should be obvious. She should know I'm this way. She should know what to do in this moment. But like, kind of with the assumption thing, like anything we do to each other or for each other is not ever in a way to say 99% of the time. It shouldn't be in a way to make the other person feel uneasy or upset. So having that patience, it's super, super vital. There's a verse on it. I'm sure everyone or most of you guys know this verse in James chapter 1, verse 19. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. So very, very point blank, slow to speak, slow to be angry, and just be quick to listen and understand, because most of the time that person has good intentions, especially your spouse.
Yes.
That makes sense? Anything to add?
I would say that, you spoke really well about the whole patience, and I do want to add more about the grace. So for me, when it comes to giving you grace, I've learned so much about what grace is. It's not even just biblical for me, because I'm still growing within my faith. But what Erica has taught me is I had to make the connection of whatever we're going through or whatever you're battling in that moment. It's not because it's something you're battling. Whatever you're battling is because of something that happened in your childhood. And so I think, I'm not going to give any examples, but I think there was a aha moment for the both of us whenever she's like, you got this from your daddy, or you got this from your mama. It's
just
kind
like,
of,
damn, that's true.
Yeah. And so for me, understanding your patterns and your thoughts and your behavior, I don't think you're trying to hurt me. I think we're just trying to figure out why you are the way that you are.
Yeah.
And so when she relays it back to your childhood, in that moment, that grace comes to me real quick, because I don't want to lash out on you and say like,
Facts.
oh, you freaking dummy or whatever.
That's the very rated G version.
Okay.
By the way. Freaking dumb person.
But yeah, I just feel like just understanding your past trauma will help you give more grace. And that's why therapy is so important, because you can't figure that, like, your spouse wouldn't be able to know why your certain behaviors are like, they wouldn't you know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't just know.
Yeah. No, you broke that down perfectly. That's the T. I'm glad you brought that up. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, just to summarize that, communication, patience, grace, sometimes what I like to say, you just got to count to 10. Just count to 10 before you say something, do something, count to 10. If you're feeling overly motivated, pray on it.
Yes.
I think that's one thing we got a little bit better at, praying before we speak, whether it's just, just a 5-second, like, Lord, please help me not to lash out, whatever the case is. Sometimes we pray together, kind of giving each other that just moment of, togetherness. I don't know. But all right, that's pretty much it. Did we miss anything?
I want to say that, like I said, this topic we've talked about today was primarily focused on therapy, and I wish we can go into much deeper, because I just love therapy so much, and I love going to therapy with you. But I want to tell people, please, you have to invest in your marriage. Therapy is investing in your marriage. Like, it has cost us quite a lot of money, but I would not trade that for the world. And I know I don't like the terminology of risks and investments, when it comes to.
I think what you're saying, so like, because I think before I compared it, or we're speaking about investments, there's investing in like stocks, obviously, something like that. Investing in therapy, it's like, it's not even a risk, because you're getting that reward. You're paying someone to literally dive deep into you as a person, your marriage as a union, and just improve yourself. Like, there's it's not even an investment. It's just, you're just paying to get better. Like, I don't know, as simple as that. That's kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah, it is. I also want to add that therapy is not only essential for problems, but it's also good for preventative measures too. So we don't go to therapy just because we're having a problem. We go to therapy just for fun.
Yeah. No, yeah. And it's, like you said, just to prevent anything that might be, like, we'll figure something out in therapy, like, oh wow, we didn't even know we have to fix that. That didn't seem like an issue right now, but it will be, and we need to tackle it before it snowball effects. So
yeah, don't wait until your issue gets so bad that therapy will not work for you. You have to catch it as soon as you feel a little off. Go for the small things, but also still go for the big things as well.
I think that's a great way to wrap it up. This is something we're going to add to all our episodes.
What?
Let's just do something random. Let's have like a random question of the day that we have to answer. Let's let the audience know us and, like, have fun with us a little bit. Do that. So I don't know if you have a question you want to ask me, or it's just something random. Nothing too crazy, but I have one for you.
A question?
I don't know if you want me to go first.
Yeah, go for a second.
So I want to know, because I want you to embarrass yourself right now. Let's hear what is one of your most embarrassing childhood moments that can't leave your brain ever.
Oh my gosh, I have a few, but okay. When I was in high school, I was really, really thin. I would say I weighed maybe 90 pounds, maybe less. And throughout high school, I was so self-conscious about my weight that I would wear multiple pants in high school. I was wearing 3 underneath those jeans for sure because I didn't want to get bullied. I didn't want anyone to think.
So you was thick in them 3 jeans?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. No, I don't think so.
Okay, that's hilarious. I wish I went to
You
high
didn't
school.
laugh.
It's like sad hilarious. I feel a lot of pain for you, but it's funny at the same time.
I'm thick now, so it's okay.
Okay, well, I'm glad you shared that. Everyone's gonna know that now. So, do you have anything for me?
I don't have okay, maybe not. It's not really a question, but can you say a joke off the top of your dome real quick?
A joke.
Because you swear you're funny, so I just want
I
to
am
show
funny.
the world.
I think I have one, but I have a question for you kind of on that topic. Did you know that Cardi B has a twin sister?
She doesn't.
She runs track and she's very fast. You know what her name is? Cardio.
See?
Okay. It was funny, don't lie.
Oh gosh, you just embarrassed me.
Okay, we're going to wrap up the episode there, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Another episode of No BS Just Marriage. We're looking forward to many, many more to come. Please like, subscribe, hit the alert button. What else? I don't, this is my first time doing this.
Share it with your friends, give us feedback. Let us know what you would like to hear from us. Let us know what we did wrong because, we like to learn and we want to be a better versions of ourselves and grow with you guys together. So
yes. Thank you so much. We pray that y'all have a blessed evening and goodbye. Till next time.
bye, guys.